Hey everybody, Sean here from VidGamiac.com. Here we are today back in historical period drama, grabbing the Ace achievement. This is to beat the game on hard without using the beetle cheat code nor any gambling tables. Start the game up, and I'm going to show you how to get through the menus and all of the Japanese. On this menu, just hit the Y button right away. This is going to be start or continue. Obviously, since we don't have a save handy, just make sure you pick the first option, which is to start. Then you can skip the opening cutscene if you really want to. Once that's over, you are going to be on this screen. Just hit the Y button. That should keep it a single-player game and also skip past the name entry screen. Since we can't use the cheat code anyways, we're just going to skip ahead to the actual game. As soon as the game starts, hit the Y button, which should bring up the pause menu. Go to the second row, third one from the left, and you're going to be on this screen. Make sure you move this slider over to the second to last one. That should change the difficulty to hard. You have to do it before you do anything else in the game, or else you will void the achievement. So now that we have the setup out of the way, it's time to get on to the actual game. Because the game is going to be rather difficult on hard with your base stats, we're going to have to take the time to level grind. So hit the Y button and then go to the third option on the first row. This should open up this screen with a bunch of percentages. Now, what you want to do here is you want to make sure you empty every single stat except the second one on the left column. Then what you want to do is you want to reassign every single percentage to that stat. This is going to be your kick stat, which is going to be your major damage dealer in this playthrough. Now that we have our level up structure in place, we are going to start level grinding. What you want to do is you want to hit the Y button to bring up the pause menu again. This time hit A in the pause menu to bring up the map. You should notice the gangs wandering about. What you want to do is you want to make sure you try to find one of them, and then what you want to do is you want to try to kill as many as you can. The way the level up system in the game works is every 10 enemies you kill, you will gain 1 level, and your level is going to distribute based on the percentages of the stats you put in place. Since we put all of our percents in to kick, every 10 enemies you kill will give you plus 10 in kicks. So basically what you want to work on for this initial level grind is to just work on your attack stats. The reason for that is it should make level grinding the rest of the stats you want to work on a lot easier, since you are able to take out the enemies a lot quicker. Dying shouldn't matter too much, because when you die, you only lose half of your money and respawn at the starting point. You shouldn't lose any of your stats, so dying isn't going to be too much of a big deal, at least in the early on, while you're just working on this first stat that you want to grind. So with that in mind, if you happen to have a gang that's going to appear right next to the starting area, you could pretty much farm this location, because if you do manage to die, you are only going to have to just walk one screen to engage the set of enemies again. The enemy placement is completely random in the game, so you can't really control it. You can just open the map screen and close it and hope that the gang wanders off to the same area. So this is going to take a little bit of luck in order to get an enemy placement that you want. Other than that, you are just going to have to bite the bullet and have to walk every time you die back to the enemies and start the farming process all over again. Now, you should notice as you kill more enemies, you are going to start becoming incrementally stronger. And despite how strong you become, the thing you want to keep in mind for this early grinding part is make sure you do not take out every single enemy on the screen. Basically, what you want to do is you want to take out as many as you can until the gang leader pops up. Once he pops up, what you want to do is you just want to leave the screen and then come back so all of the enemies respawn. And the reason you want to do that is because it's going to be easier to level grind here at the start of the game rather than towards the middle, and especially towards the end, because the gangs are going to become significantly stronger, and we want to max out our stats on the weakest enemies possible before we tackle the actual story mode. That being said, to check your stats, what you want to do is you want to hit the Y button to bring up the pause menu, and then what you want to do is you want to go to the second option on the first row. This is going to be your stat screen. The top 8 stats are going to max out at 127, and then the bottom 2 stats are going to max out at 255. So once you max out your kick stat, what you want to do is you want to make sure you go back to that menu from earlier, the third one on the first row, and then you want to make sure you reassign your percentages into something else, because obviously we can't fill the kick stat anymore. So what I like working on second are going to be both my stamina and my energy stats, which are the 2 stats at the bottom that max out at 255. So move your percentages in to one or the other, or both if you want to split the load, and then get back to our level grinding spot. So go back to where the first gang is and continue to beat them up until there is only one person left, which is going to be the gang leader. Make sure you leave him alone and just leave the screen and then come back, and then all the enemies should be back. As you can see, level grinding with a max kick stat is going to be way easier since you could do way more damage, and you should be able to take out most of the enemies without dying so frequently. So it is worth taking the time at the beginning to start working on your character so the later enemies aren't going to give us any trouble. So where I like to draw the line on my initial level grind is going to look a little something like this. I personally like to have max stats in kick, defense, health, and stamina. So your stat line should look a little something like this: 127 in kick, 127 in defense, and then 255 in both health and stamina. Now, this step is going to be optional, however, I do highly recommend it as it's going to be a big time saver. At the same time as your level grind, you want to make sure you grind for 3,000 money. Once you have 3,000 money, you are able to unlock fast travel, and I'm going to show you how to get it from the starting town. So, from the starting area, which one you want to make sure you head left, you should be in this hilly area. Take the upper path, and that should take you to the fishing village area. Continue left from here. Make sure you ignore any enemies along the way, because obviously we don't want trouble or accidentally die and lose all our money. Once you get to this screen, make sure you move slightly up and then go left instead of continuing on the path to the right. This should take you to this hilly area. Make sure you take the upper path and you want to start dashing. Jump up on this cliff. If you miss, you can just take the lower path. But all you have to do is just continue your journey to the left, and this should take you to the westernmost town on the map. So once you are here, what you want to do is you want to make sure you continue left. You should get to a fork. There is going to be 2 staircases, one leading down and one leading up. Make sure you take the upper one. You should be in this area with a bunch of staircases. Make sure you make a big U-turn and climb the tallest one. Once you are on this screen, make sure you go up slightly. You want to go up 1 character length, and then you want to jump towards the staircase going down. If you made the jump right, you should land on this invisible walkway, and you should be able to walk on air to a hidden shop. So just make sure you head over to the corner, and that should warp you inside. Once you are here, you want to make sure you buy the thing that costs 3,000 money. This is going to be the ability to fast travel, which once again is just going to save us a ton of time since we aren't going to have to walk to fight each gang. Make sure you hit Y once you leave the shop, and then you want to go into the first thing. This is your inventory. Just make sure you click on the one and only thing, which should be the fast travel. Once it has the heart next to it, you should learn the ability, and then to use it, all you have to do is just hit Y to bring up the pause menu, A to bring up the map, and then you are able to warp wherever you want. Now, before we get started with the actual game, I'd like to point out that the bottom rightmost thing on the map is going to be your starting location. If at any time in the game you ever need to heal yourself, make sure you warp here and then head into the second building from the left. This should be the inn. For 100 money, you should be able to fill up not only your health bar, but also your stamina bar. So very useful to take advantage of this in case you ever need it. So that should pretty much do it for fundamentals. On to the actual story mode. So the way the story mode is going to work is you basically have to roam around the countryside and defeat the gangs in a specific order in order to get the last boss to appear. There are going to be a slew of optional gangs along the way, which you do not have to defeat if you don't want to. But because now that you have fast travel, you can basically just warp to wherever you want and just defeat the gangs that are mandatory towards the story mode. I'll leave the order that you are supposed to fight them in the margin in case you want the quickest way through the story as possible. So make sure you follow this. However, do keep in mind there can only be a limited number of gangs on the map at a given time. So what that means is if the next color in the rotation that you are supposed to fight isn't on the map yet, what you have to do is you have to keep defeating optional gangs until it does appear. Basically, you just need to clear the queue of any optional gangs so the newer mandatory gangs can appear on your map and you can fight them as well. So once you fast travel in, just make sure you wander about the next few adjacent screens if the gang isn't already there, and once you find them, it's time to engage them in the fight. It's going to start out with you fighting the regular gang members, so just use your martial arts skills in order to take them out, easy peasy, and once you defeat the last one, the gang leader is going to appear. He usually should be standing next to one of the entrances, and then you're going to have to fight him. Think of this as the boss battle per se. So thanks to the time that we took to invest in our stats earlier, the boss fights shouldn't be too difficult. Once you take him out, he should drop a significant amount of money, so make sure you pick that up, which we will save up for later. And then we're going to move on to the next color. So the first one should have been light blue, and then after him, we're going to move on to yellow, which are going to be the twins. Make sure you fast travel there, look for the gang, take them out, and then take out the 2 bosses, and then it's going to be on to the next gang. So pause menu, A button to bring up the map, and then the next color is going to be green. So look for the green gang, fast travel over there, and then lay the smackdown on them and their gang leader. After that, we are going to move on to dark yellow. Remember to come back to the starting town if you ever need to heal yourself. It's better to spend the 100 on the inn rather than die and lose all of your money. Make sure you don't get too overconfident on how many hits you can take. If you are low on health and you need to heal, make sure you go and heal because money is going to be very important later on. After yellow, you have light blue, which is going to be this color. Head over here and then fight the dudes. Keep in mind, once again, the enemy placement is going to be completely random, so hopefully you are drawing all your fights in stages where it's easier to fight them. Some stages are going to be hard because they have uneven terrain or they have a pit which you can fall in, but you can also take advantage of that. You can try to knock enemies into pits as well, and that should make some of the tougher fights easier if you are lucky enough to draw them. After light blue, we have regular blue, which is this darker color. So make sure you take them out. After that, we have yellow-brown, which is this weird-looking color. And it was during this fight where I happened to get my first recruitment opportunity. So the recruitment opportunities, like the enemy placements, are going to be completely random, but I'm going to take the time out here to explain them to you if you do come across them earlier. So when you defeat a gang member, you're going to get this yes or no prompt. Left one's going to be yes, right one's going to be no. If you pick yes, you should recruit them. What recruiting basically does is if your AI partner ever goes down, you will pretty much switch to any gang leaders you have recruited, and it should be on a rotation. And basically, they will take over as your AI partner. Or if you're doing this in two-player, basically your co-op partner can play as these characters. What could also occasionally happen is these gang members will also give your main characters a special technique, which may or may not be useful depending on what it is, but that is a note to keep in mind. But because it's random and there's no way to control it, there's no real hope banking on getting a specific one to make the game easier. So once you take care of the purple gang, it's time to move on to the brown gang. We are in the second half of the game, so things are going to get quite a bit harder, but we should still be able to manage with those stats. Also, hopefully you are lucky on your stage draws and are fighting the enemies in a stage that's super easy to deal with them. For an example would be this mountain stage where you can just knock them off and kill them that way. Super duper easy and super cheesy, but will give you the win nonetheless. As soon as you defeat the brown gang, we are down to the final four. Highly recommend you head back to the starting town at this point. We are going to stock up on healing items to go. Head to the store that's on the furthest right. It should be the restaurant. Once in here, just make sure you stock up on the bottommost option. It's going to be sushi. It should cost 250 money a plate. However, we can carry a bunch of them on us, and we should have a bunch of money at this point. So this is why we were saving all of our money this whole time. Make sure you head up to the dark blue gang. These are going to be the twins. You're going to have to fight them twice because one twin runs away, and you are going to be left to fight with the other twin, and then after you defeat him, you have to defeat the opposite twin. A note to keep in mind here is if the first twin asks you to recruit him, there is a possibility that the other twin becomes dark green, so you want to make sure you note that in the rotation. It depends on what twin you fight, so once again, it's going to be completely random, so be a little careful with this one. If you don't see the other dark blue on the map, it might have turned dark green. So make sure you keep that little side note in your head in case this rare event does indeed occur. Once you take out both of the twins, that should be the first two of the four super bosses out of the way. It's time to move on to the next stage, which is going to be red. This is actually the final boss. However, we will not fight him on this first go around. What's pretty much going to happen is we're going to warp there like normal. We are going to fight the red gang. Once you defeat the gang, the final boss is going to show up and he's actually going to run away. So there is really no need to try so hard to try to smack him. So just hit him once and then he should go run away. I'm pretty sure he says something that we can't read because, you know, everything's in Japanese. But whatever the case, we are going to have one more fight before him. So we're pretty much going to fight his left hand, which is going to be the black gang. So if you haven't already, make sure you definitely bring as many portable healing items as you can into this fight. The reason for that is even though the gang itself isn't too difficult, the final boss is going to absolutely shred your health bar apart. He is going to have this cyclone attack, which if it hits you will pretty much drain your whole health bar, even if you have max defense and health. So be a little careful with that. My best strategy is to stand far back and try to get him with a jump kick and then immediately back out of his cyclone range. As you can see, if it does touch you, you are going to have your health bar eviscerated. Once again, take advantage of those healing items, and you can also take advantage of the in-game save system. So try to make frequent saves. Every time you land a hit on him, make sure you make a save before he can damage you, and make sure you are eating your sushi if you ever run low on health. So as you can see, it's going to be a massive war of attrition. Just slowly try to whittle him down, and hopefully you are able to defeat him. But this guy will give you a ton of trouble. But if you were smart and happen to bring a lot of sushi with you and make sure you heal when appropriate and take advantage of the in-game save system, you should be able to finally defeat him with enough perseverance, and then it is on to the actual final boss, which is going to be the red guy who ran away earlier. So before we decide to take him on, we're going to do the stereotypical stock up on everything before the final boss in video games cliche. So back to the starting town, make sure you hit up the inn to heal yourself, and then head back to the restaurant and just go for broke on sushi. You should be good with about 5, however, if you aren't so lucky with avoiding hits, make sure you buy as many as you can, obviously. So once you are all stocked up and good to go, it's time to bring up the map and then head over to the red gang. So head on over there. You can try to take out some more optional gangs if you really want to, but we're just going to go straight for the ending. So once you are there, hopefully you are doing this in an advantageous stage. So recommend whatever stage fancies you. Hopefully you're playing on a nice flat stage where you're not knocked off the screen, but try your best to fight the gang. They are pretty tough, so make sure you take a health item if they did too much damage to you. And then the last boss is going to appear. He's also going to have his lackey with him, who is also going to mess us up pretty bad. He has this tornado ability, which is pretty much going to cause a natural disaster on the screen. In terms of dealing damage, it's not going to mess us up too bad, but if you are playing on a smaller stage, it might knock you off the screen. And because of this game's mechanics, if you fall off the screen and come back, you are going to have to fight the gang again, which is just annoying. So try best to keep the fight in the center of the stage so you can kind of control your landing. And other than that, it's just the same as every other fight in the game. Just keep throwing yourself at the boss and keep throwing jump kicks. Try to do running jump kicks and just try to deal more damage than they can do to you. If you start taking one too many hits, remember you have sushi that you can use. So make sure you heal as frequently as you can. And you should be able to take out both of them in a matter of no time. So now that we have dealt with all the gangs, it's time to bring up the map one last time and head back to the starting area. Once you are here, what you want to do is you want to make sure you head back to the dude's house. If you don't know which one it is, it should be the third one from the right. So the one right next to the inn. Head on inside, you should get this loading screen and then the final cutscene. Make sure you pick the right option if you want the alternate ending achievement, if you haven't gotten that already. And then once you finish up the cutscene, we should beat the game and get ourselves the achievement. There it is, 100 gamer score, and that's all there is to it.